Hey folks, welcome back to Only the Best Fantasy Novels. My name is Robin, and today I want to talk about Beasts of Carnival by Rosália Rodrigo. And this is her debut novel, and as soon as I saw the premise of this novel, I knew I had to read it right away. This is based off of the Spanish Caribbean, actually not that far away from where I grew up and where I'm from, and it delves into colonialism and these kind of things. So, and on top of all that, it's a fantasy book. So how could I not pick this up, right? So this draws on the dark history of the Spanish Caribbean in particular, and it's a fantastical examination of colonialism and abolition and culture. And it's as heavy hitting as anything you would think of that delves into those kinds of topics. Like Rosalia did quite a bit of research going into this book, and it's clear. It's clear from the way that so many things are discussed and handled and all of that. So let's get into the book. What's the basic idea of this book? 5 years ago, Sophia's brother left in the company of their master to go to Isla Bestia, which is the Carnival island. They disappeared. Now that emancipation has been granted, Sophia is determined to go to the island and locate her brother. But when she arrives, the carnival is unlike anything she's ever experienced. And as she dives deeper into it, trying to find her brother, reality starts to twist around her, and time begins to lose all meaning. So, there's quite a lot to talk about when it comes to this book. So I'll just start with the characters. The first and foremost, we have Sophia, the main character that we largely follow, and honestly, she's a very strange main character to follow. She's a very closed off person. She's very analytical. She has a very scientific bent to her, which is interesting given that up until 2 years ago, before the point of this story, she was literally a slave. So how she's able to develop this kind of personality is a bit strange. But as the story unfolds and you learn more about who she is and where she comes from, you begin to understand how she was able to develop the way that she has. So there's that, and as a main character, she's very closed off, she's very analytical, she's very pragmatic. She's very down to earth, focused, that kind of personality. And as a result of that, as things get more phantasmagoric and more strange and horrible, she has trouble really accepting what she sees and all of that. And then we have and the emotional part of it is a bit weird as well, because this is a book that delves into some very complex things when it comes to relationships. One of the other major characters in the story is her best friend, who was also previously her owner. Now, the thing with the two of them is that there's genuine affection there. They grew up as sisters, almost the owner grew up effectively seeing her as a sister, but at the same time, in Sophia's mind, she was always the owned one. She was always a slave, and because of that, there's a dynamic there that's very difficult to deal with, is the only real way to put it. And Rosalia does a really good job of delving into that relationship. She doesn't sugarcoat it, she doesn't make it something cuter than what it is. She delves very much into the reality of it, and she just punches hard when it comes to that. So there's that. And then as the story unfolds, we get to see other ways in which this closed off personality, it both allows her to progress in ways that she needs to for the sake of the story, but it also restricts her ability to really to really appreciate some of the things that she ends up being subjected to as a result of that. But anyway, that's all I have to say about the main characters. The next thing I really want to talk about is the book itself, because this reads almost like two separate novellas that have been fused together in a way. The first one, we just have this utterly phantasmagoric, fantastical story where when Sophia arrives at the island and she delves into the carnival, and it's every bit as in the way that Bacchanalia is described in like Greek stories. It's very much like that, except it, of course, with the Caribbean and the Spanish twist to it and all of that. And as it progresses, it becomes stranger, it becomes weirder, it becomes that much. It makes less and less. Reality makes less and less sense as it progresses. So it's almost like just like an insane fever dream in many ways. And then in the second half of the book, which is almost like the second novella, like the curtain gets peeled back, we begin to see how all of this works, how all of it is even possible, and all of that. And there is an explanation for it. One, there's actually multiple explanations for it. When you think about it, when you think of what was presented to us in the story, it's not necessarily spelled out to us, but it leaves it open to interpretation to how that part of the novel can even work. That part of the novel can even work. And for some people that's going to be satisfying, for some people less so. For me, I just kind of went with it. Because the back half of the novel deals with quite a few other more complex things I was thinking about. I didn't really stop to dwell too much on the mechanics of how the carnival itself works. So there's that. Like the entire novel itself, it is just pervaded with this deep sense of mystery, because when you get to the carnival and you begin to experience what happens and all of that, like the mystery just deepens, and there's events and character interactions and these kind of things that really add to that mystery. And then when you get to the second half of it, as much as you begin to get the curtain peeled back on what's happening, it just raises more questions that slowly get answered, some in satisfactory ways, some less so. So there's that. Like the entire thing, it works thematically, but it's just a bit weird. A bit weird, I guess, is the way to put it. But this back half of the story is where we really get into the topics that Rosalia wants to delve into with this book, because this is the part at which we now have effectively the full picture, and we can now fully appreciate what exactly is happening on this island. So, like, I just want to touch on some of the topics that kind of really stood out for me when it comes to this book, because, like I said, it covers a lot, and by no means I'm even scraping the surface here. But first and foremost, like I mentioned, there's that complex dynamic between Sophia and Adelina, her friend who was previously her owner. Like that dynamic that they have as people with genuine affection for each other, who have this like this just dark, complex relationship that it grew from. Like it's such an interesting thing to see, because it very much muddies the water in one of the best ways possible. It doesn't make this thing black or white, good or evil. Like it portrays a very complex situation in a very complex way, and it doesn't say that this is good, it doesn't say this is bad. It shows instead the repercussions and the ramifications on each individual character, and the way that this history of the relationship has impacted their relationship effectively. So there's that. And then there's also just everything surrounding Sophia's family life in general. Like when you factor in that relationship and you extend it out to consider what's happened to her biological family members over the course of this novel, like you get in a way, her personality once again begins to make sense. This closed off kind of person, like she's gone through some serious stuff, and it's almost as if that reaction to that closed off personality that she has is almost a reaction to all that she suffered. Is her way of putting up barricades against whatever the world throws at her. And the thing that I especially want to touch on when it comes to the destruction of her family through slavery, because obviously one of the main things that happens in slavery is family members get separated, whatever, is that in Sophia's case, she also lost her there was like an evisceration of her cultural identity. So she lost contact with that one of the things that we see play out throughout the course of the novel is that because she lost contact with that cultural, that traditional aspect to her identity, when she's confronted with these elements, like she can recognize them. She can like she can recognize them for what they are, but they're just stories to her. Like they don't really they're not really a part of like her belief system or her moral fabric in the way that someone who's raised in a particular culture, in a particular tradition, in the way that it would be for them. Like if you're a Christian and you grow up in a Christian household, you would like you would obviously be very devout when it comes to like when it comes to your religion. That for that example. Whereas with her, because she like that was taken away from her, as much as she can recognize these like the symbology when it appears over the course of the novel, it's not something like she truly internalizes, is the best way to put it. So there was that aspect to it, which I found like is something that obviously it's mentioned in where it comes to like topics like slavery and so, but it's something that I've never read a book that really explored what exactly that means, and that's something that's explored here. So there's that, and then of course with pretty much any book involved in slavery or any topic involved in slavery, there's always the topic of the response. Like how do the characters respond to this incredibly horrible thing that happened to them? Like how do they respond with like how do they deal with the rage, the grief, and these kind of things? And personally, maybe this is just me being cynical, but I don't have enough faith in humanity to expect them to ever react in any other way except one. And so the resolution that Rosália, or the response that Rosália portrays here, it's one that yeah, it's possible. Like it's not unknown, I guess, but for me, I'm too cynical to really buy into it. Is my way of putting it. That being said, I'm fairly sure there is very, and I'm not fairly sure, there is very much historical precedent, because one of the things that I learned in this book after reading it, when I got to Rosália's endnotes, is that like Carnival initially started as a means of it was a means of it was a means of fighting back against the against slavery and these kind of things. Like that's how it initially started. So it's not like not every response has to be a violent response, even though my cynical self is telling me that it's only ever going to be a violent response from people. But it was really cool to see that the way she baked that in, that Carnival was started very much as a response to slavery, as a resistance against slavery. So like that's something I never knew before picking up this book, despite coming from a country that has Carnival twice a year, mind you. So so like I said, like there's quite a lot to unpack when it comes to this book. I barely scratch the surface as to the story itself that it tells. It's a interesting story. It's very much self-contained. It has quite a lot going on, but it's very much there to serve as a structure for the thematic work that needs to be explored. I'm not sure I enjoyed the story per se, but the book as a whole, I very much enjoyed the experience of reading this, if that makes sense. Like this is not a book you walk away from feeling happy and you walk away feeling happy from. Like I walked away from this one feeling more fulfilled, if that makes sense. But yeah, really incredible debut, and like this might very well be the best debut of the year that I've read, easily. And it certainly, I won't be surprised to find out that this book is on many people's best books of the year as a result of that. Like it's an incredible debut that goes to some very, very contentious places, and it doesn't pull any punches on how it decides to delve into some of these things. So really great book overall, I would say. If you're even semi-remotely interested in anything that when it comes to this book, I highly recommend you check it out, because it is very much worth the read. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about Beast of Carnival. Incredible debut. Rosália really hit it out of the park with this one, so kudos to her. And yeah, if you've made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.